I had just started as a nanny for a family with two children. I worked on a set schedule. One of my shifts was on Fridays from 3 p.m. to about 10 p.m. Across the street from the house was a construction site, which I passed every day. The workers always greeted me, waved, but one of them showed a special interest in me. He was at least 20 years older and made inappropriate comments to me. Every morning he shouted compliments at me, and in the evening he offered to give me a ride home in his van. I always refused, although I felt uneasy. I didn't feel any real danger until one day he approached me on the street. He said something very vulgar. I turned to leave, and he grabbed my arm roughly and said, "Don't you dare walk away from me." From that moment on, I began to be wary of him. The house where the family lived was 2 stories. The bedroom and bathroom were upstairs, the living room and kitchen downstairs. The lower floor was completely glazed from floor to ceiling. One night, after the children had gone to bed, I was upstairs. I confess I was rummaging through the parents' belongings in their bedroom, so I was carefully listening for any sounds that might indicate their return. And they were supposed to return early. Being upstairs, I heard a noise like a gate sound. I looked out the window facing the front yard and managed to see a black duffel bag being thrown over the high fence. The bag was followed by a bat and then a man. It took me a couple of seconds to realize what was happening until I realized it was that builder. I froze. I saw him cross the yard and walk along the house. A moment later, the lights in the house went out. I didn't know what to do. My cell phone was downstairs, and because of all those glass windows, I couldn't go down to get it without being noticed. The only exit from the house was downstairs. I could hear him walking around the house, tugging at the windows and trying the door handles. I was trying to figure out what to do when I suddenly heard a car pull up to the house. The parents had returned. I hid upstairs with the baby in my arms until I heard them come inside and call me by name. I ran downstairs in a panic and we called the police. That guy was never found and I never saw him again. They tried to track him down through the construction site, but they were very reluctant to share information about their workers. It seemed there were a lot of shady types there who were working illegally and didn't stay long. The main thing I learned from this experience is that it's very important to change your routine when possible. I took the same bus at the same time every day, got off at the same stop, went to the same grocery store every morning, and walked to work the same way. I think this helped that man figure out where I would be and at what time. I try not to think about what might have happened if the parents hadn't come home at that moment.
I had antidepressants that make me sweat like a pig, and they wake me up for a couple of hours in the middle of the night. One of those nights, around 2 a.m., I woke up. I finished my homework for the next day, printed out my work, and got bored. My skin was all sticky from sweat, so I decided to rinse off. After showering, I toweled off and decided to air dry without clothes. For a change, I went to read in the guest room. So there I am, lying on the bed, reading, sprawled out naked, like in some cheap adult movie, when I suddenly hear the distinct sound of a door closing inside the house. I'm in a panic. My body froze and my head is a mess. I'm lying naked on the bed. There's no clothing or weapons in the room. I could wrap myself in a sheet, but it won't give me anything but the illusion of safety, and it will only prevent me from running or fighting. Staying naked is like an invitation to be raped. My cell phone is downstairs in my backpack. The cordless home phone is in another room. I'm listening to figure out where the intruder is, but I can't hear anything. Will he leave if he realizes someone is awake? Or will he come upstairs? Did he come to steal something, or for another reason? After 30 seconds of silence, I quietly make my way to my room, put on underwear and a t-shirt.
Now I feel a little safer. Through the window, I can climb onto the roof, jump off, and knock on the neighbor's door. Maybe they'll open it. The plan is not the best, of course. I still have no weapons, but at least I have to get to the phone. There's one in the third bedroom, but it's by the stairs. The door doesn't lock well, and there's no safe exit. There's still no sound from downstairs, but none of the front doors have opened, so he's still in the house. I creep down the hallway and grab the home phone. Hooray! Now I have a portable phone and minimal clothing, but still no weapons. I'm standing in the hallway clutching the phone in my hands. My plan is to run into the bedroom, lock the door, get out on the roof, and call the police. Wherever I am, I need to call the police. But instead, I take a deep breath and shout, "Hey!" I listen, but no sound. Shouldn't there be some kind of reaction? Someone is there? Complete silence. For some reason, I start searching the house. There's no one downstairs, no one hiding. The doors and windows downstairs are locked. He went upstairs while I was moving from one bedroom to another, or climbed in through a window on the second floor. What an idiot I am. I have no weapons, I'm wearing minimal clothing, I'm clutching the phone, but I haven't called anyone and I'm going back upstairs? There's no one upstairs either. Everything is locked, but I know what I heard. I go back downstairs, carefully check under the sofa, behind the sofa, the coat closet. Nothing in the kitchen and bathroom cabinets. Nothing anywhere. I repeat the search upstairs, still nothing. Confused, I go back to my bedroom, passing by the room with the computer office. When I pass by this door, the sound of a door closing comes from the room again. Again, like a fool, I go into the room. There's no one there. No one under the table, in the corner, or in the closet. The windows are locked. Where is this sound coming from? Because of the adrenaline, I'm all on edge, scared, confused, and slightly trembling. I go back to my room, passing by the table. I notice the printer, which sighs heavily at me. Aha, that sound of a door closing. It's the sound of the printer's print heads rearranging themselves and then going into sleep mode. I've decided, for Christmas, I'm buying myself another printer that will pretend to be a creepy burglar at night. Nevertheless, I'm still an idiot for not calling for backup when I had the chance. And I didn't even grab a knife from the kitchen while I was there.
I was 17 then. I still lived with my parents. On Friday night, everyone left and I invited a couple of friends home. We smoked a little and decided to hang out in the basement playing video games. At some point, two friends ran upstairs to get snacks from the pantry. A few seconds later, they flew down the stairs shouting my name. They said someone had just parked in the driveway. At the same moment, I heard the dog start going crazy. In a panic, thinking my parents had returned, I rushed to hide the weed and pipe which were by the back door. I went up the stairs and threw it out the window. There was no car in the driveway, but the dog was still going crazy. So I went outside to check if anyone was there. It was late, almost midnight, and cold. I was barefoot and lightly dressed. Shivering from the cold and fear, I went around the house but found nothing. I went back inside, took the dog to the basement, and tried to relax. About 20 minutes later, we heard a deafening crash. The sound was as if something had exploded right in front of the house. We ran out through the back door and saw a car crashed into a tree by the road in the neighbor's yard. The dog started going crazy again. It was my brother's car, but my brother had gone with my parents to my aunt's and left the car in the garage. I ran up to the car, looked inside. There was no one there. I immediately called my brother in a panic. When he answered, I felt both relieved and confused. He told me to call the police. After a while, my brother returned home. The police arrived, examined everything, took statements. We did a pretty good job of hiding that we were high. When the tow truck was pulling my brother's car out of the front yard, the police received a call about a burglary at a house further down the street. They left one officer with us, and the rest left to deal with it. It turns out that a group was operating in our area, breaking into houses and stealing cars from the garage. I was in the house when the robbers stole my brother's car. I may have even walked past him at some point. When they were caught, one of them had injuries indicating that he had been in an accident. It was the same thief who broke into our house. I knew him. He graduated from our school when I was in 10th grade. The guy was watching our house when we weren't there. He knew where we kept our spare keys. He knew that if someone was home, the doors would be open, and he was waiting for me to be alone to break in. My case is not related to anything paranormal, but I still get chills when I think that he was waiting for me or someone in my family to be home alone to break in. And even scarier, how blind I was to the fact that